There's one person. Hello. Hi, Olaito.
Hi,
Okay. Hello, this is
I'm here.
Yes, the chair of our panel, and please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Olaiton Alayande.
Olaito is our first speaker. But
You say
we're
what?
still-
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And we're waiting
Okay.
for the other two because
Okay.
Chris cannot make it today. His visa got a denial just 2 days ago.
Okay.
So each of us will have 15 minutes of presentation and 5 minutes of Q&A time.
Okay. 10 minutes. Okay.
Right. And let's allow maybe 3 more minutes to wait for the other speakers to join either online or physically.
Yeah.
Thank you, Olaito.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to ask, will the questions be taken immediately after each presentation?
Yes.
Or will it be after all the presentations, the questions will be taken?
Personally, I prefer to have the Q&A immediately after. What do you think?
Well, I don't.
It's of your choice.
No, it just depends. It just depends on what everybody wants. Yeah.
So I will say our Q&A time will come firstly, immediately after the presentation. And also, if we have some spare time by the end, we will welcome the forum to have another discussion.
Okay.
So we ask
No
for
problem.
immediate questions, but if we don't get something for the time being, we'll move on.
Yeah, I understand.
right.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Yeah.
Are there more speakers coming?
She's trying to clean up.
Okay. I hope you don't mind sitting in front. Okay. And you are Dr. Elishing. Welcome. So we've already got our first 3 speakers. I am the third, and Chris cannot make it today. So the 5th speaker will be Joy Odeumi, and if she is not around at the moment, we will start in about 2 minutes time, let's say. So let me announce, but Dr. Elishin, take your time. I just wanted to let everybody know that I got our time reminder. So I am going to take the timer here. So when it reaches to the 10th minutes of your presentation, I will show this.
Okay.
I got 5 minutes, 3, and 1. So this should be tricky.
That's cool.
A reminder, and I will not speak, but I guess we will will honor the time. Okay. So no one is coming from the Zoom.
We have about, let's say, 4 ladies.
Is there any of them that is Joy?
Yeah, we are enjoying. Okay.
So she's there. Okay.
Okay, to,
Please. So our last speaker, Joy Odeumi, is also from online. So we have 2 speakers online. and to here with all of us. This panel is apparently for language teachers to exchange experiences and maybe thoughts. So if the file of Dr. Elishin is ready, we will welcome our first speaker.
Okay.
What's the time?
The scheduled time was 3:30, but for some logistic issues, we'll have some patience. It's beginning in 1 minute.
Dr. Joy Odewumi, kindly accept. Has she accepted?
Yes.
All right.
Is she there? She's there. Yes, you. Oh, I think this is already that. I know there will be.
Okay, so thank you for everybody to come to this panel. This panel is for language, pedagogy, and Indigenous education. And let's welcome our first speaker, and should I call you Doctor? Yes. Dr. Sorry, I'm missing the name. Alayande, Dr. Olaita Alayande has her.
What?
Yeah, sorry.
I'm not a doctor yet, please.
Okay, our future Dr. Olaita Alayande has her title for today as Mother Tongue and English in African Schools, the Yoruba example. Let's welcome the future Dr. Alayande.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you for joining this session if you are here. My name is Olaitan Alayande. I'm a master's student of applied linguistics at the University of Mississippi State, United States of America. So I would also like to appreciate the organizers of this event. I must say that this is a very great one. And thank you for bringing everyone together to learn. So for today, I will be presenting a topic titled Mother Tongue and English in African Schools, the Yoruba example. You know, when you hear mother tongue, what comes to your mind first? Mother tongue is the first language of a person, like the language from birth. You know, people say that, oh, mother tongue is a language you learn from your mother's womb, right? So that is mother tongue. And we are dealing with mother tongue and English language in African schools, particularly about Nigerian schools with Yoruba example. So my research interests include computational linguistics, syntax, and English as second language. So let me quickly do a brief introduction about the research. You know, there's no way we are going to speak about English language in Nigeria and we're not going to mention the British colonial history, right? Because English started as a form of a unification. Like we needed a language that could unify us as a country. And because Nigeria has over 400 languages, right? Or more than 500 languages, English was adopted as an official language and as a unified language. So since then, English has been adopted, and English now extends to our educational system, that from kindergarten to tertiary institution, we learn English and we learn all other subjects with English language. So for this research, we'll be dealing with the influence of influence of mother tongue on English language. And I must say that there are positive influence of mother tongue on English language, so that it will not look like I'm being an hater of my language. I love Yoruba language so well. seriously. But I would like to say that there are positive influence and there are negative influence. But for the purpose of this research, we'll be focusing on the negative influence of the mother tongue on the learning of English language. The research question, my overarching research question is, what are the effects of mother tongue on the academic performance of students? Are there noticeable traces of mother tongue when students write in English language? So when a second language speaker writes, are there traces of their mother tongue in the writing sample? Also, what are the roles of students' immediate environment in the learning of English language? What role does the parent play? What role does the school play? What role does the friends play in the learning of the English language of the students? So the literature review I had a lot of literature review, but because of this presentation, I decided to limit it to about 2. So Biela 1999 proved that transfer errors are particularly evident in writing. L2 learners frequently apply the grammatical rules and vocabulary of their L1 when writing in L2. Are there not traces of mother tongue in spoken language too? There are. Like for accent, even the transfer of rules can be seen in the spoken form. But because of this research, we are limiting it to the writing samples. And Eka 2000 said the linguistics error that are common in Nigerian English can be traced to the interference from the indigenous language. So before I continue, I will try to establish that there are basically 2 types of errors. There's interlingual error and there's intralingual error, right? But before we try to see the meaning of those 2, let's quickly continue. So the methodology used for this research was quantitative approach and a qualitative approach. Now, what do I mean by quantitative approach? Questionnaires were sent out, questionnaires were administered to teachers and students, and they were analyzed in tables, frequencies, and percentages. And the students had to write a 15-line composition, like an essay about themselves. Like, you know, this essay where we do like write about yourself, stuff like that. So they wrote 15-line essay. So that's the qualitative data that was used. It was analyzed and the errors were picked out to examine the type of errors and what are the samples of mother tongue interference in their errors. So the teachers' questionnaire was based on the language policy of the school, the language the teachers speak in the school, what the students do, if there are noticeable traces of the language in the students' writing. And the students' questionnaire was based on if they transfer the rules, what do they feel about their environment, stuff like that. So after the findings and the research on noticeable traces of mother tongue in the students' writing, 75% of the teachers claimed that they agreed that noticeable traces of direct translation from Yoruba to English. So 75% of the teachers claim that there are noticeable direct translation. Now, what do I mean by direct translation? Direct translation is you speak a sentence in English language and you translate it directly like that in English to make use of it in English language. 75% of the teachers also agree that Yoruba language affects the learning of the English language of their students. And in the student written composition, there are elements of direct translation of Yoruba language. Now, I will be taking you through the examples of what I found. You might be surprised, but I know that if there are like English teachers or probably teachers that have marked essays of students or exams, you will know that some of these errors are kind of common in some students, like probably some public schools. I don't want to say, because there are public schools that are like, you get what I mean, but probably some, just a few. I found I like to be reading. Mo fẹ́ràn láti máa kàwé. You know, a typical Yoruba would be like, mo fẹ́ràn láti máa kàwé. I like to be reading. I saw it and I was like, wow, this is direct translation from Yoruba. You just brought it from Yoruba and you translated it to English. I saw highlight in completion. Mo pupa ní àwọ̀. I saw something like I tall. I saw something like I like chemistry because it's a very delicious subject. Now, don't get me wrong. You see this delicious. People, you might be feeling like, how can a student write delicious? But let me tell you something. Have you ever been in a situation whereby you try to use a word in a particular language you are not so used to, and you just fall back to the repertoire, like you fall back to your knowledge of your first language, and you be like, I don't have the direct word to use. And what do? You just be like, oh, let me just pick the closest words to it. And when you pick the closest word, you just use it. That's the case of the students. I saw delicious. I'm like, is this food? But seriously, anybody could be in this kind of situation. It might not be delicious. You get what I mean? It might be like it might be another part whereby you are basically looking for the word, you don't have the word, and you just use the closest word. I love the tongue of my mother. Mo fẹ́ràn èdè ìyá mi. You know that's funny too, right? Like, I love the tongue of my mother. I was like, oh, wow. Now, these are direct translation. I do like to play football. Mo fẹ́ràn láti máa gbá bọ́ọ̀lù. Yeah, I saw that too. So, also in the written composition, I also saw the misuse of verbs. Now, what do I mean by misuse of verbs? You know, Yoruba, we don't have a way of, we don't have singular and plural verbs, right? I remember the first time there was a time I taught some set of students in SS1 or so. I taught them plural and singular verb, and they were like, that's the first time they will be here. How can I say that there's a plural verb and a singular verb? They were like, it's only now that has plural. I was like, no, verb also, but Yoruba language does not have, and it's not their fault, right? So also Yoruba language does not have, we don't add suffix to our past tense when we use it. We don't do past. We don't use lived, right? We don't add suffix. We only add words like when you say mo lọ sí ọjà lẹ́ẹ̀kan, English will say I went to the market, right? Or you get something like we don't have such type of past and present tense. But because of this knowledge of Yoruba, they tend to transfer it to the English language. My best friend live in Iriakari. You know, anybody could see, it's not even about the student. Anybody could say, my best friend live. Is that really correct? To be like, the writing should be what? My best friend lives in Iriakari. So I saw all these errors. I saw it. I saw my father loved going to the farm. I saw my father loves going to the farm. Like, my father loved going to the farm. And the writing is supposed to be my father loves going to the farm, right? I hate people who does not love reading. Now, all these errors, okay, 5 minutes. Yeah, let me quickly continue. My role on the roles of the immediate environment of the students, 61% of the students agree that their mother tongue is clearly observed while speaking with their peers. You know, most students, they tend to spend more time with their peers, right? And I've seen a lot of students who spend time with their peers and they speak English and they learn from their friends. But in this case, they said their mother tongue is basically used when they're always with their friends. So they might not be able to they might not be able to use the English language in that case, but they will be able to use their mother tongue. So on that, 80% of the students also agree that their peer relation has impact on their English language. Then 50% of the students agree that they transfer the rules of grammar into their English language. I want to go to the discussion now, right? On the discussion, we have two types of error, like I said before, interlingual error. Interlingual errors are errors that are caused by the clash of two languages, while intralingual errors are errors that are caused by, like, that are just limited to one language. So for this case, we are dealing with interlingual errors. So like we examined before, we saw the examples of the interlingual errors, right? So the transfer of rules is caused by the prior knowledge of the mother tongue. These students, they are well equipped with their mother tongue. They know how to use Yoruba language so well. So because they are not familiar with English language, what do? They transfer the rules of their first language, at least for survival. Because you have to speak English language in school. When you don't speak English language in school, the teachers will punish you, right? So you just make do of what you have. So another thing about this is that I also noticed, okay, the influence is caused by the similarities between target language is called interlingual. I've mentioned that. Then, now the fact that most of the leisure time spent with the peer group means mother tongue is mostly used. I've already mentioned this before, that the more, like, the way you practice something will determine how often you can use it. Then, based on my research and my findings, thank you. Based on my research and my findings, I made some recommendations. Now, before I continue with the recommendations, the teachers also said that some of them said they make use of, 50% of them said they make use of English in school. They make use of English in school. And while some of them said they make use of English and Yoruba, like they mix it together. Then some of the students said, about 46 of them said they have language policy, which is English, while others do not agree to that. They feel like there's no language policy because we speak any language we like. So based on this, my findings, I made some recommendation. One of the recommendations is that students should cultivate the habit of using English regularly because the regular use of it helps the learning process. You can't say that, oh, the regular use of it will do what? Will help the learning process. Another thing is that the school should help the student by putting into practice the Nigerian language policy. There's a language policy, right? It's just better that even the teachers and the students, they just stick to the policy so that it will help everyone. But the teachers being like, oh, so let me just use Yoruba. Some schools in quote, they will teach the students in English, but they communicate with the students with Yoruba language. This will not really help them. So it's just better to be like, oh, let's just minimize the way we use English language. Then the school should reduce or ban the use of English language. Then on my conclusion, the prevalent use of mother tongue influence learning and the use of English language. To curb the use of mother tongue in the school, proper measures need to be put in place. Language policies can reduce the use of mother tongue if they are implemented in the right way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the future Dr. Alayonde.
Thank you.
I have a direct question after the presentation, but I will, of course, leave the forum to our first friend, Manas. Please.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate your presentation, but I've noticed something. Yoruba children who can't speak Yoruba actually end up communicating exactly the same way, and it's shocking. Like we have a lot of young Yoruba children who are able to speak Yoruba language, but we still observe the same thing in their when they are speaking English language. And so I'm concerned that you say they continue to speak English language, it might not solve the problem, number one. Number two, as someone who studies indigenous language and needs to preserve and protect them, I think that it will be doing them a lot of injustice by saying that by asking us to reduce the number of times they language. And scholars have also shown that that understanding your mother tongue actually helps you in learning other languages. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that.
Second question. Oh, sorry. Let's have all the questions, and then you can respond to all of them.
Okay.
Let's say we have 5 minutes of this Q&A particularly. So please, yes, make your question.
Thank you so much, Presenter. I want to say that your presentation generated lots of arguments. If this is presented in a language class, a lot of things that, in fact, the first question I should ask you is what is the novelty in this presentation? Yes, because a lot of work has been done in this aspect. Now, I would also like to know the age of the students that give questionnaires, because the further question to that is, will you describe them as will you say their first language is Yoruba or English? Because to find it difficult these days, or even to define their first language. Most of these children you are talking to, they grew up with both English and Yoruba in their home. The parents are looking for a way to even give them that English language. And unfortunately, the English language that the parents are giving are not the correct version of the English language. Then the question of the standard English or not standard English is a very serious question that has generated argument in the literature. I would also like to know whether you are aware of the Papenwa Foundation experiment that claims that a student, if a pupil are trained in their mother language, in their mother tongue, they do better even in other languages. So, and there are examples of that. Then you keep on talking about error. You want to know whether those what you call translingual errors are really errors, because in fact, research has gone beyond the issue of talking about translingual error analysis and all of that. I would love you to dig into the issue, because that way you are doing, maybe you can survive there, but here in Nigeria, a lot of people will criticize you and do not want to listen to us. I would love to speak to you if we can have a conversation.
Okay, so we will have a further Q&A time after all the talks. Now, third question, please.
Congratulations on your presentation. But without talking too much on some of the things that because people have already said something about it. I would advise you for study error analysis. Error analysis is very, very important. I help you to give you to open up what you are. I thought that I was struggling to establish some points because they are not germane. So I would advise you go to study error analysis. You go to study derivative grammar, so that is selection process. That will help you to understand the kind of data you are collecting from the respondents. And as I said, the respondents, you didn't tell us the age of the respondents, and it's a very, very serious factor in determining whether these children are just making mistakes or they're just saying what they know. Someone has also said that what your children normally should speak to start with their L1 for their mother tongue, and they want to learn another language, and that's language learning, not for language acquisition. When you start with that, they acquire it, nobody sits them down, you teach them this language, you don't acquire it. And the way they want to learn further, that's the second language learning, that's culture. Now, you talked about policy. You didn't say anything about it, because the policy is even some policy, they guess what you are saying. Yeah, another policy or language is against what you just said. The policy supports that children should be taught in the language of the immediate environment until you are or so. So you can also make sure that we need to study that also. And then you have to read, as I said, the Papua model of that happened at effect. So you need to do that also. But I think this work is people have done so much in this you understand. So you need to read more and make it go better. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you for all the questions. And online, don't worry. I believe you have taken notes of the questions. So because you got so many responses, we will have your response to their questions by the end of the overall discussion. Would that be all right?
Yeah.
So you can also take some time to digest and give further feedbacks. Right. So now we will welcome our second speaker. This is Dr. or Professor. Okay. So this is Dr. Eleshi, and her topic for today is Teaching Science in Schools, a Yoruba Language Guide. Let's welcome Dr. Eleshi.
Thank you, the chair, and thank you everyone in present. It's my pleasure to be here. I'll be presenting a paper titled Teaching Science in Basic Schools, the Yoruba Language Guide. So several scholars have made efforts to develop terminologies in Yoruba language to aid communication in contemporary fields of study. And some of these efforts are the Yoruba Meta-Language Volumes 1 and 2, the Quadrilingual Glossary of Legislative Terms. We have the Yoruba Dictionary of Physics. We have the Ulubodishawe work on the terminology of building constructions. We have Parking Day of 2013, election 2022, 2022, and 2023. And I would like to say that from the time that, okay, so I skipped one, the Yoruba vocabulary of primary science and mathematics in 9 Nigerian languages. So this very publication, not really a publication really, but it's like a report of a workshop. So from the time that was released, And till 2013, I struggled to find a particular work on aiding the teaching of basic science in Yoruba language until 2013, when Fakinlede, came up with his own handbook where he demonstrates how scientific terms can actually be, translated to Yoruba language. And I would like to say at this point that this very study of mine differs, from the Fakinlede of 2013, because that was actually translation. But this is terminology development, which is clearly different from translation. So we can say that education can be subdivided into two parts. We have the home or the domestic education, and we have the academic education. I'll be speaking specifically on the academic education. And the aim of this paper is to develop basic science, teaching guide in Yoruba language. The National Policy on Education, as has been said, when somebody was saying, I was like, are you looking at my paper? Don't say what I was going to say. Okay, so the policy encourages the teaching of pupils in the first 3 years of education in the language of immediate environment. So you live in Lagos, you will be taught in Yoruba language as the language of instruction. If you're a Yoruba person, you live in the Igbo land, your children should be taught the Igbo as a language of instruction in the first 3 years of education, which is probably primary 1, 2, 3. Why this? You might be wondering, but why? But that's what the policy says. And like it has also been said, the Fafunwa model that has been able to establish that when children are taught in their mother tongue, it enhances knowledge. And this was also supported by UNESCO 2022, whose research, shows that education in mother tongue is a key factor for inclusion and quality learning. It improves learning outcome and, of course, academic performance. Now, where do we go from here? There's something I would like to, bring to our presence. If you look at what we have here, I'm sure it's clear enough. If you look at that diagram to the left, we all know the pie chart. Yeah. No, the one to the left. That's pie chart as we were taught in school. Yes, yes. So an African, no, let me not say African, that's too wide. To a Nigerian child, what is pie about that? The only pie we know is the meat pie or the fish pie. So you come to class, you tell me this is a pie chart. I struggle with it. Of course, I will learn it because you are forcing me to learn it. And I will try to understand it and see if I can, reciprocate, when you ask me in exam. And I can bet that this is art now, this is humanities. Many of us here don't know mathematics. And it's because of one of these things. There is a lacuna between the town, our homes, our environment, and the classroom. It's like when you're in the classroom, you're in a different world. When you are at home, you're in a different world. If this chart has been taught to me as at the level also, when you cut orange into two, and then you see the inside, you can tell me that this middle is the radius. About the teachers, I can't remember. The surroundings is the circumference at the level also. And I begin to see it, okay, when I tear, how we eat our orange now. When you tear one, when you tear two, the space, children imagine a lot. So that they can easily marry. When my mommy buys me orange and I'm taking orange, and I remember that man that used to beat me and faint when I don't understand mathematics. So this is what he's teaching me. I can marry it. When you come to class, you teach me pie chart, and I know that the only pie I know is meat pie. There's a lacuna, there's a disconnect, there's a disjoint. And we can say categorically that a proper understanding of what is currently going on in the Japanese educational system, can help us to understand the level of benefits that lies in using the native language or the mother tongue, as a language of instruction. There's this connection. They are able to thrive. They are able to think. They are able to produce things. We all have children at home now. The things they want to try out once they understand it. But when the child is in a state of confusion, it remains there for as long as possible. Now the question is, you ask me to teach science in Yoruba language, where is the guide? Because even many teachers do not even have the lexicon. They don't even know what we call some of these things in the Yoruba language, because some of them we actually have what we call them, some we do not have. And that is why, one of the materials I use for, my data gathering is the curriculum of students in the primary school for the year 2012, the one I was able to lay my hands on at that time, because I went to NERDC, and it states that it is important, to stress that for effective implementation of curriculum, teachers must be trained and be trained. That emphasis is mine. And the resources must be provided for the acquisition of consumables and non-consumable items that are required for teaching. And it is to this end that I decided to go on this very research. The methodology, of course, I consulted the library, textbooks on basic science. I also went to the NERDC, got the curriculum for computer science, for basic science, and physical education. And of course, I contacted experts, those who teach this student basic science. When you teach this topic, what is in your mind? What do you expect this child to know? And of course, I contacted some linguists who are actually custodians of the language. Like I said earlier, this work is not translation. It is terminology development. So there are strategies that are employed, not that slide. You have done 2 slides, the one up. There are strategies that are employed for terminology development. So I have the lexicon. Lexicon are terms that are already in existence. So when we do that, we do adaptation, these concepts. There's a name for it in the source language. There's a name for it in the target language, the language for which I want to develop a term. Let me just pick it. So it's already in the lexicon. And then I have the coinages, which are further subdivided into 3. I have description by physical features, by functionality, and I have the one I refer to basically as descriptive. And I have the semantic extension. That one I like so much. We call it SEMEX. I call it SEMEX. Like I said the other time about the pie charts, I said ate, ele portion. So the ate there, some of us that here that are Yoruba, when you go to the market, ate, your back market, you display. There's a place they put a nail. You will not put a bowl on a nail. Is it possible? So you put sachet. So there are certain things for certain places. So, and I'm sure that is what the chart also really is. You have the phonetic charts, the verbal chart, and the likes of them. And of course, we have learning at the very last strategies. When we have adopted all of the strategies and it seems nothing is working, the terms are not concise, they are not economical, and then we say, let's go to the very last resort. Let us run and then just save. So I move to my analysis. I have subdivided my table into 4 columns. I have the source term, the definition, because like I said earlier, this is terminology development. And this, you call it words, but I call them concepts. They are terms. They have meanings in specific field, in specific domains. You understand? So what it means in that domain is what I am creating a term for, such that when it is said in English and it is said in Yoruba, it retains, the concept in that domain. So I also have my suggested term and of course the strategy that is employed in deriving them. So barometer, what is barometer? I need to know scientifically what a barometer is. So it is a device that measures the air pressure and shows when the weather is likely to change. So I suggested that is a machine or an instrument that measures the air. And I said that is described by functionality. That is what it does, the function. I have bats. When we say bats, several things come to our head. There's an animal like bat. There's bats for playing. So here, because I also got terms from physical education. So it's a specifically shaped piece of wood that is used to eating wood. So I call it lambebe babolu. How many of us know lambebe? That thing that is, it looks like it. So it's just, so here I have like a combination of 2 strategies. I have semantic extension and the description by functionality. Central processing unit, we all know what it is. Let me not bore us with the meaning there. I call it Opolo computer because it is the brain of the computer. Everything the computer does is inside that place. So I'll move quickly to another strategy, lexicon. And I said, boy, to reach a temperature at which liquid turns to gas, and I call it omitio, obeetio. That's the lexicon. I didn't derive that. We all have it. But a science teacher might not even remember that in a class. So this is like bringing it to our fore. And I have the boiling, which is the process cool, lower, lower, that the water is cool. It's not hot, it's not cooled. And then we have dissolve, Yoru. So all of these, I said, they're already in the lexicon, we already have them. So it's not that I brought them up. So we have air pollution. Egbe abafefe. Egbe abafefe, that is what I call it. Because you know what egbe is? Something that is imitated, something that you don't like. So when it is on the air, it is egbe toba afefe. We have boot to cause a computer to start up by turning on the power. I said it's a computer. And then the process of it, I call it booting, I call it theta computer, the process of forcing a computer to come on. In conclusion, this study is an aid to the acquisition of Yoruba language and that tends to making Yoruba language a language of instruction in schools, especially in the teaching of science subjects. It is recommended to educational body as an important contribution to efforts towards terminology development and aiding of the teaching of science concepts using indigenous language. Thank you for listening.
Very good time management. Do we have any questions from the forum? So the first who raised her hand, please. Yes. So we'll gather the questions now.
I want to ask, in teaching of science in the schools, is it the primary school or the secondary school or the tertiary level? Because we have to be specific. According to the education board, we said it's from the primary school. So the medium of transferring our knowledge in secondary school should be English, no more mother tongue. So are you proposing we start using the mother tongue in primary and secondary and tertiary institution? That's my question. Thank you.
Second question, please.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, madam. I think this is a good start for the conversation. And well done, ma. I quickly want to ask, can you tell us some of the problems you encountered in the process of doing this? Why I'm asking that is I want to see how you intend to tackle the problem of dialectal variation in the process of doing your translation. To call it terminology development, because then how do you intend to disseminate this information that you are gathering? Because a lot of work, similar works, just as you mentioned earlier, are on ground that nothing has been done on it. I don't know whether you have access to Igbo Analysis 2022 on HIV and Ebola terminologies. I do not know. Thank you, madam.
Any more questions?
Thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. My question is just on a child who is from a parents who have this mixed ethnic group, you know, like a child who is from a family of the mother is Igbo, the father is Yoruba, and they get to school, maybe they leave their primary language that is being spoken in the environment is Hausa. So how do you have such a child? What do you do? It's common in our country. It's very common. So what do you do? Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting presentation. I'm just wondering, even as educators, we're going to struggle, apart from these keywords, it's not just the words, we're going to say them in sentences, you know. Even the lecturers, we struggle with Yoruba language. So how realistic, you know, is this drive?
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations for your presentation. My only concern is you talked about strategies for deriving these terms. What do you put in place to decide on which strategy is best for developing a particular term? For instance, if you want to translate, I like the fact that you said that it's actually contextual, and that's different between translation and terminology development. So when you want to translate mouse, for instance, mouse, the computer mouse, I know that you won't call it the animal mouse. So in that situation, how do you choose the strategy to be used to determine the right term to be developed at a particular point in time? You know, because the strategy we use to translate mouse to eku, animal, it should be different from the one you use to translate mouse, computer mouse. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So how do you determine the strategy to be used? Thank you.
This is the last one. Yes. Now in Nigeria, we find that we have different languages, and we live in different places. Like I'm an Igbo person, I'm living in Lagos, I'm a science teacher, and I'm teaching in one of the secondary schools. So how do you expect me to learn Yoruba and teach in Yoruba? Remember, are you putting this into consideration? Because most of the secondary schools in Nigeria, we are all different tribes in different places, and we can't teach in Yoruba. So how to do it? Thank you.
So this is approaching to the end of our Q&A time for the time being. So I believe actually take now and then now it's going to be our third presentation. Welcome. Please find your seat. And our third speaker for this panel is myself. My name is Fumi Zhang. I'm going to give myself a timer as well. Just a second. Has to be fair. And also to show my respect, I need to remove my chewing gum. Excuse me. Sorry. Okay. To my PDF, please. PDF directly. So Fumilayo is my name given by my host family in Kogi State. And it's now on my passport, so this is not a lie. Right. And I hope, yes, now that I'm going to put on the timer, my topic for today is talking drum and Yoruba filming class, bringing traditional and contemporary culture in Yoruba L2 teaching environment. Many of our speakers are talking about L1 teaching and material development, and I am the one talking about L2 teaching. The outline of my talk goes as follows. We'll have a short introduction, and I will share information about textbooks and online resources of L2 Yoruba teaching with all of us. Then I will talk about the kind of L2 Yoruba learners in China, and with a short comparison with other courses you see from the leading institute in the United States. And then we will see that the kind of Yoruba L2 course we have in China will be more of a methodological course than a language training course due to our needs. And then I am going to demonstrate 3 pieces. The first one is the newly editing film conversation material for L2 learners based on the film Vocal League. And then 2 short videos. One is that I try to bring the talking drum practice into our classroom. And the third, to raise a further discussion to compare with different oral traditions. I'd like to show you some short videos of Peking opera percussion for you to see. Right, so the beginning. I had my first field work in Kogi State in 2010, and I was doing my PhD at SOAS, University of London. I was a hired research assistant by my German colleague who was doing the final year of her PhD work. And that was funded, that work we were doing together was funded by the SOAS Endangered Language Archive Project. So you can see my hand drawing because back in 2010, there wasn't even a clear view of the Kogi State Ayere village from Google Maps. There wasn't anything for reference. And in 10 years' time, I'm now moving to call myself an introductory Yoruba teacher in front of you. And this is the course material I developed for Introductory Yoruba 1 in the first semester. So please go to the following page. Now, my question is, these are the materials available for the L2 Yoruba learners outside Africa. And I'm wondering how many of you know any of these. For example, the first one. This is a material developed by University of Texas, Austin. If any one of you knew it, please raise your hand. Sorry, back to my PDN. This one, so none of us as first language Yoruba speakers know. That's fine. But this is very popular in the States. And this series is developed by Harvard University. And they had a University of Ibadan linguistic students sent there for master and PhD. So how many of us know this series of picture books? Not really. Or? Okay, it's fine. Then the line infidel. So I guess this will be pretty popular, but this is the most advanced. We can read only the first piece, and with limited knowledge to it. But to try advanced reading of poems, we did it in our second semester of the first year. Or let's say it's the third semester, actually. And how many of us know this publication? Can you raise your hand? Oh, that's great, thank you. So now we got two. Beautiful. And this was where me, my colleagues, and some of our students started our journey of learning Yoruba from. It's the SOAS and University of Manchester edition of Yoruba L2 teaching material. How many of us knew this? Thank you, sir. Thank you. So 2 more, 3 more from the forum. And this one is an earlier, one of the first edited Yoruba L2 material available in the States. How many of us knew this? Probably none. Thank you very much. So if any of us are interested in the L2 Yoruba teaching material, please come to me after the presentation. And please go to the following page. Sorry, what's the question? Oh, sorry. Next page. And the next, please. So these are the online resources. How many of us know anything of these except for BBC Yoruba? Do we know?
I've seen Yoruba name for Google. I've tried that.
You tried the website?
Yes. Yoruba names and other ways.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
And what about the Yoruba typing keyboard? Okay. But this one is more friendly for L2 learners, just for your information. Okay, let's move to this. So we stop here for a second. This is a newly published bilingual textbook having a focus on conversational Yoruba. And this is the first one to be in Chinese in Yoruba. Wow. So introducing this is edited by a team from the, Beijing Foreign Study University. And I believe they'll welcome new contributions and maybe collaborations from any of you who is interested in the structure developed for teaching conversation, beginners conversations. But all of the textbooks I just mentioned, including this one, for beginners, they are just sets of codes. And the language course doesn't just teach you codes. What's a set of codes? So there are so many well-written alphabets and well-written characters. I am a Chinese user. I can read the Chinese. And for my students, they before they started learning Yoruba, they can't read the Yoruba scripts, the Yoruba languages at all. So if we give this well-edited material to them as beginners, they won't be able to interpret it. That's the case for L2 Yoruba learners. We are very different from the L1 Yoruba learners because for how young the children are, they're already with the auditory memories in their mind. They'll be able to map their memories with the Yoruba, well, the writings if you teach them. But for L2 Yoruba learners, we have more issues to address. Please, next slide. Okay. Like this, especially for us, Chinese-speaking communities. The European languages you will see in this continent, they are not the first languages originally you can find in China. So we have very little access to African regional expressions based on those. And we don't have access to the regional accents that are developed here. And also, China is not part of the Great Yoruba diaspora, so that we don't have larger Yoruba communities in China. And also, we didn't have much a role in the transatlantic history. So that the ideas, concepts of the Yoruba daily life, Yoruba house settings, Yoruba textile, Yoruba food, they are lacking in China. So as the introductory L2 Yoruba teacher, more of our work will be connecting the cultures and the languages and perhaps learning experiences with foreign languages as well. If we can move to the next slide, please. Right. So for comparatively longer history of African studies, we can find some of the leading institutes in the United States are able to offer 4-year Yoruba course, 3-year Yoruba course. And ours with Peking University is more like the University of Texas, Austin, the 2-year reading-based Yoruba course. But that's just the beginning. So if we can move on to the next slide. Yes. And that is mainly based on the interest of our students, because so far, our Yoruba course is for research students and master students mainly. So they may not want, or no, that they may be not aiming to be trained as a translator or interpreter of the Yoruba language, but they have serious interest in doing field works in Yoruba land, in Nigeria, or in the Yoruba diaspora regions. So our work is to connect them with proper materials they are going to analyze for their research further. Okay, please go to the next. So our Yoruba course in China for now is field methodological, that we're preparing them for coming to the field. Next slide. Okay. And we are also seeing this course as a introductory course to the African cultures, because we can see the world from a new angle through the Yoruba L2 teaching and learning. Please go to the next slide, like this one. I myself have developed our 4 hours of lecture time into 8 different parts. And one of the parts for each week will be sharing information, news pieces on the African continent. And then in the second semester, please go to the next slide. Q3 and 4, we will have more focus on the happenings in Nigeria or in West Africa. So these are the topics we've covered in 1 year. The next slide, please. All right. So for listening materials, it's something we really, we counter the most of the problems, because we see that if we've got recordings that come with the textbooks, they will be very introductory and they will be slower than what we do with us, the first language Yoruba speakers. And if we want to give the students an authentic taste of what language sounds like, what language of Yoruba sounds like, they will need to listen to something faster, like what you can see from the film. So how many of us have watched this film? Please raise your hand. Okay, so I personally and many of my students found this film very helpful to the learning of the contemporary, let's say, urban Yoruba settings. And we know there isn't much of a Yoruba subtitle we can find from any of the films. So my work was adding the subtitle of Yoruba and also making editing and correction of the English subtitle. And this material is available for our students. And this will take 1/8 of our course time each week. Next slide, please. And this one will show in the film, the short video clip I'm going to present. How many of us know this talking drum phrase or battle? Please raise your hand. It's this one. Yes, at least half of us know. Thank you so much. Now please play the talking drum video. And this is not to show how good or bad I am in playing talking drum because I only learned it for a summer. And this is not to say that we want to train our students to be experts in talking drum. It's impossible. But this says how much effort we put in connecting our students with the native Yoruba African rhythmic music. So please have a look. We managed to play 5 times. Sorry, say okay. So this Amy is we take turns in playing different parts. Okay, please put a pause here. Thank you. And 2 of the players in this film are with us today. They are Hunke and Titi. Yes. Yes. They really made an effort to learn. I believe you will understand. Okay. And then I'm playing another video to show a very quick clip of the Peking opera, which is I myself define as one of our oral traditions in China. And there they have a percussion band as well. So today, yes, thank you. Yeah, actually one last minute. Okay, let's just listen. The percussion is on the right hand side. Welcome. Percussion band. End of the song. So this is for another topic, and I got questions for the forum, please. The last slide. So this is the beginning of my own Q&A time, and my questions are: have you heard about the oral traditions in Asia and or in China? And is there any detectable structure similarity and or differences between the two clips you just heard, or between the Chinese oral tradition and the Yoruba tradition you are very familiar with? The third is, yes, for my presentation, what are the types of materials in Yoruba a second, L2 language course should include from your recommendation? So these are my presentation and my questions. Thank you very much. Of course, we will also welcome questions from the forum. I will have a 5-minute timer. Yes, please.
I'm going straight into well,
Thank you,
so
ma'am.
I'll list the last question.
Yes.
I don't think I should suggest without asking how can you teach philosophy in what view? You teach Yoruba philosophy or what view?
Okay. Yoruba philosophy or worldview. Okay. We have other courses to cover that. Okay. Philosophy. And the second question from, I think,
Okay, so.
yeah. So you were the second.
So, I'll ask you a question.
Yes, please.
Are you an L1 or L2 university?
Say it again, please.
Are you L1 or L2 university?
Speaker.
Oh, sorry. I am a Chinese L1 speaker. Yoruba is my third language, so that's my L2.
So, okay, I just want to.
Yes.
The use of the field
Yes.
is very dangerous for you for the subtitling of things.
Yes.
Yes. Because recently I've discovered that if you are not a speaker of a particular language and you're watching the film, think that you want to develop yourself by watching another film. So I learned this joke that when you're watching the film, it's subtitled. You are watching the language they are speaking, are completely different from the subjects. Yes, so that's why I said it's dangerous.
Yeah.
I think that language working on the class for the subtitle, and subtitle are completely wrong. That's one. So if you think also that you want to edit your subtitling, who are the people in charge editing the subtitling? And then that you showed us, we talked about the Beijing Institute of, I didn't get that very well.
The Foreign Study University.
So because who are the editors? Are they also L2?
Yes, this editor, major editor, is a professor from the University of Ekiti. And this is Professor Olagoke Alamu.
Yeah.
He's returning now. Yes.
Okay,
Okay, and so I will come to this at the Q&A time. The third, please.
Yeah, everything you presented. But one thing I'm really curious is that what is the line between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation?
Cultural appreciation and appropriation.
How do you try that line without crossing it?
Oh, without crossing it. Okay. Yes, I've taken notes of this question. Thank you. And the next one, please.
Yes, my question attaches directly to the first before the last question that one has asked.
Yes.
So I was going to ask also that what level of proficiency are you in the Yoruba language? But I think you already answered that. And I was also going to ask that the materials that you teach with, or even your teaching, who supervises it? Do you have a Yoruba speaker or Yoruba expert, or scholar who supervises what you teach, such that what you actually want to pass across is what you are actually passing across? Because it's one of the problems we have, even in Yoruba land itself.
Yes.
Like he said the other time, that even some of the teachers don't even, know how to put the sentences together. So you might just see a transfer of what we're also experiencing here over there. And before you know it, in the next 10, 15, 20 years, Yoruba language might even be how do I put it now? We might have actually been corrupted. Like we have a lot of corruptions that we are trying to get better. Like you have our Abeson, they call it Abeson, our Amukoko, they call it Amukoko, our and all the like that, and we're trying to correct. So I was going to ask that question. Who supervises?
Who is supervising this?
Who is actually checking? Who is checking to say, oh, you're on track? Sure. Oh no, try this and try that. Because I had some pronunciation errors in, just time, but then kudos to you. You're really doing well. Yes.
No.
Well done.
Yes, the last question.
Okay, so mine is more like a recommendation. So I remember when I was in secondary school, I learned Yoruba and when I was studying, and we do more of talking about stories of the past.
Okay.
So if you can look into a lot of stories of the past, then army, we need to talk about we have had it to for too long. I think it's there already, but you can also look into that. And also proverb, dirge, when they talk about hunters or the success of and all this kind of storyline, feel is something that also helps, especially the proverb when you talk about tortoise, Ijapa, all those things. I feel it's something that reignites the memories of learning. Like when you learn it's an interesting story, the words tend to stick, Ijapa, all those things. And I feel that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so
An
much.
amazing presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank
I
you.
want to ask why use balance? Why you have interest in use balance?
Yes, I did linguistics, and I love your culture. And this of over 400 or maybe 500 languages. Thank you. All right, we need to move on to our last presentation. We got about 20 minutes, which is about right. Okay, so let's welcome Dr. Joy. And the family name, please.
Odewumi.
Odewumi. Dr. Joy Odewumi from online, please.
Dr. Joy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My topic is morality and indigenous language system in Nigerian proverbs and folktale. I am Dr. Joy Odewumi. I'm from Lagos State University of Education at Oto Ijaniki, Lagos. This paper, a full paper will be on the 29th. I just want to speak about morality in our folktales and proverbs. Morality is an integral portion of our proverbs and folktale. So most proverbs must have moral wisdom embedded in them, as folktale must have moral undertone. We discover that anytime they tell a story, you hear at the end of the day, the storyteller will say, what does this story teaches us? So moral undertone is like a theme in literature, but in folktale, it is called moral undertone. What moral did this story teach? Morality means three things to me. One, the extent to which an action is right or wrong. The principle concerning the distinction between right and wrong, good and bad behavior. And thirdly, a particular system of value and principle of conduct. If our proverbs are born out of our cultural experiences and practices, then we are to choose between good and bad. In folktale, there are many examples of moral and morality in many folktales in Nigeria, ranging from the simple tortoise stories in the animal kingdom and among individual day-to-day experiences, like the tortoise and the hare, the lion and all the animals, the python and the hunter, and so on. But let me recount the story of the proud princess and the moral undertone in it. For this talk, I want to use 6 proverbs, 2 from Hausa, 2 from Yoruba, and 2 from Igbo, to show morality and the moral undertone in them. The first one is an Hausa proverb. Please pardon my pronunciation. Hanya lafia, abita, the shakera. Meaning, hasting in life can result to failure. The morality of the story is that a long, safe route is preferable to a short, dangerous one. The second one is Zakaranka Ramfu Mianka, meaning a man's cock is his camel. The morality of that is always value and appreciate the little you have. 2 Igbo proverb. Okoro, agaye tokari onye koro ya. That means okra cannot outgrow its owner or planter. Morality, no matter how elevated you are in life, you cannot surpass the hand that groomed you. The other Igbo one is Ojimadu na laji onwe ya. Translation, if a person holds another to the ground, he is holding himself. Morality, consider the consequences of your action. Example from 2 Yoruba proverb. Eni mi kukute, arele lo mi. He who tries to shake the tree top shakes himself. Morality, be careful not to do evil to others because it might backfire. The other one, Enyi loro, boba bale, fifo ninfo. Speed is like an egg. When it drops on the floor, it shatters. Morality, guide your words because it can make or mar you. The story of the proud princess, I know we have equivalent of it all over Nigeria. There was this king in this land in Nigeria who married a beautiful maiden, but for 10 years they had no child. On the 10th year, they gave birth to a little girl, this beautiful princess. Because it was long before they had a child, they overpampered her. She doesn't know the morality between good or bad. So she was very proud. So when she was of age, people came to marry her and she rejected all. She was see a fault in everybody until this thing was spoken in the spiritual and the normal world. And a fish decided to try his luck, borrowing all members of his body to come to the girl. When the princess saw this fish, because he was unusual with charms, she fell in love with him immediately and decided to marry him. Send them off, and as they were going, he was releasing members from the people he took it from, and the girl was so perturbed, and she started crying. So the fish started singing to her. I don't know if I have time to sing the song. The fish said, Wonye nyocho samara, wonye nyocho samara, anyi bazu samara, anyi marama samara, anyi binede samara, ede binugu samara, wonye nyocho samara. Telling the girl that, young lady, go back. We are fishes. We live at the depth of the sea. Please go back. You cannot go with us. And this princess started crying. She cried at her heart. What does this story teach us? In essence, is that one should not be too proud. One should not be too proud. Anytime the African, the Nigerian has time for storytelling, when all chores are done in the evening, you all gather at the house of an elder, both young and old, and its tale is recounted. After the old tale, the elder must ask a question. What does this tale teach us? Say, this tale teaches us not to be proud. So morality can never be overemphasized in our indigenous language system, in our use of proverbs and folklore. So we must invite them in our language system. we will have, if we do so, we have an holistic frame that will shape our society and advance us, because without morality, there is no humanity. If there is no clear dichotomy between good and bad, everybody will behave the way they like. And the lack of this morality in our education system, if we don't infuse it in our education system and start teaching children from when they are young, like we should use it at home to talk to our children, because the use of proverbs, the way to talk without opening all your mouth. You have to teach these children what to do, how to do it. And proverbs are apt. They are just apt, wise saying. You say it, a child will grasp it. Although the proverbs is fast dovetailing into slangs now. Children are they like using slangs instead of proverb. You know that kind of it. Like say, while I be like bicycle. They prefer to say such slang instead of to say proverb. But if we teach them this proverb and we teach them this our indigenous language system, which is so based on morality, I think we'll have a better society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Otewumi, for your presentation. I personally are very interested in proverbs. Sorry.
Yes, it's Odewumi.
Otewumi.
Odewumi.
Okay. Thank you. I personally are very interested in proverbs and folk tales. Yeah. And I completely agree with you that the children, even if their native language are Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, they will still need guidance in knowing the meaning or the morals in a proverb or the folk tales. So we will welcome questions from the forum. Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, so well done, Dr. Odewumi Joy. I must say that was a very brilliant presentation. I like the fact that can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. So I
can hear you speak.
All right. I like the fact that you brought out morals as one of the themes or one of the main teachings in our Alo Apagbe. You know, these are storytellings, especially in the Yoruba. I'll be speaking specifically about the Yoruba folk tales. Now, I want to ask, have you ever considered if, these moral teachings is actually the main teaching in this our Alo Apagbe? Have you ever considered if it is or if there's something else? Okay, so another thing that came to my mind is I think folktale teaches more. I haven't been knowledgeable in some of these things, is smartness. But many scholars have not really looked into it, and that's why I'm bringing it to you. Maybe you can actually, take a leverage on that. Many people think, oh, it teaches values, it teaches morals. Yes, it does teaches all of those things, but I think that it teaches more. I've taught Alo Apagbe related teachings in the past, for like 10 years. And I have realized that it teaches more of smartness. So I'll say, what is smartness? I'm a terminologist and I like to do a lot of meaning searching. I want to know the meaning of what I'm working with, so that it helps me. So smartness, according to the Dictionary of Cambridge, is the quality of being intelligent or able to think quickly or intelligently in difficult situations. And you can see this in most of our most of our folktales. There's a particular one that talks about Aja and Ijapa, the dog and the tortoise, where they went to steal. They went to steal from somebody's farm. Aja took the little that and Ijapa took a lot. So Aja was able to run, before the owner of the farm comes back. But Ijapa was still there dragging and decided to say, Aja dúró ràn mí lẹ́rù. Aja dúró ràn mí lẹ́rù. Tó bá dúró ràn mí lẹ́rù. Máa kígbe olóko á gbọ́. He was even threatening, But then Aja was gone already. And when the owner of the farm caught tortoise, he said, I'm not the only one. No, let's go to Aja's house. I have an accomplice. When they got there, Aja was already lying on the bed, pretending to be sick with egg in his mouth. And as soon as he was captured, he started vomiting the egg that he already kept there. So that's smartness. It's not as if what Aja did was good, because that's where the story ends. You know, they later left Aja and said, you are lying against him, there's nothing wrong with him. But you know, the children that you have taught that story, they know that Aja also stole. So are you teaching us to also steal? But what the lesson in that place is, be smart. You know, anything you do, be smart. Even when all the villagers or the animals in the village killed their parents, Aja went to hide his own in the cloud. That's what the story teaches. In the cloud. So anytime he's hungry, he cries to the mother. The mother will drop. Aja ìyá ìyá ta kùn wálẹ̀ àlùjọ̀njọ̀n jíjọ. You get, and he will go up there, eat, and come back. And everybody was dying of hunger and famine. But he was enjoying that smartness. How do I have to kill my mother? You know, that I will eat once. You know, and after we are done consuming that body, what else do we eat? And Aja was able to think fast. You know, let this mother be somewhere, be preparing food for me. And for the rest of my life, I'll be eating while others are already dying of that. So I think it teaches more of smartness. Of course, it does teach moral and values. But I think that, you know, you can leverage on that to add smartness to what we learn, you know, what these children learn from the folktale. Thank you very much. Well done.
Yes, thank you very much. In all stories, there are themes and the moral undertone. I call it inventiveness. Some stories, you learn how the story teaches how through your own inventiveness you remove yourself from that trap that is set for you. Also, the stories you know is craftiness, how somebody can be smart. That is inventiveness. You know, that kind of a thing. But on the moral side, they'll say you cheated somebody, you know, in trying to be smart. You know, that kind of a thing. You have cheated somebody. So the moral of the story is one thing, but the person telling the story will say that through the inventiveness, there are a lot of stories of the character, whether tortoise or any animal, to win the day at the end of the day. Like the paper we are presenting on the 29th, you will see the inventiveness of how the tortoise was able to save all the people that was asked the question. So I agree that moral is an integral part of all stories, but there are some craftiness there. But not all craftiness we will encourage. Like craftiness of cheating people, craftiness of usurping other characters, we don't encourage children to learn that. But they could just put it in the back of their finger, like all stories have a good and bad part. You choose the one you want to follow. But since it's about morality, it's to the extent to which something is good or something is bad. I hope I answered your question. The first question, I did not really get it.
I don't think, let me come again. I really want you to probably get it. I'm not forcing it, you know, but I really want you to get it. That's why I didn't call it craftiness. I called it smartness. These are two different words. Because as a child, especially in this dispensation that we have, our children are highly inquisitive. They want to ask a lot of questions. So you come to me and then you teach me this folktale about especially this Aja and tortoise I just talked about going to steal. And then you now tell me, what did I learn from it? And I say, what will I be? What would be my lesson? You know, what's the teaching? Will I say that when you steal, be fast?
No, you can't say it.
You know, but a child would ask me, Ma, what exactly? So that's why I say that we can win such to smartness. We are not saying steal. We are not saying run. We are not saying be crafty. We are saying you need to learn to be smart. I am particular about it because my husband, I was a part of a team, did digitizing the folktale. Yoruba folktale, and this particular one, I saw my children watching it over and over and over, and they were actually searching for the moral. Where's the lesson? Their father had to sit them down and say, "We are not teaching you to go and steal. This very folktale did not teach you to go and steal. Only teaches you to be smart." And we see that some of these children are struggling with smartness, not academic performance. Now, that's what I'm saying. You know, the society in everyday life. You know, every day you really need to be smart. Like something happened. I'm sorry, I just need to explain a little bit further. I think I'm
no problem.
Something happened to my first daughter this morning. We have talked and talked and talked. You are the eldest daughter. You are the eldest child. As a matter of fact, when you wake up in the morning, you know you should wake up first. Take care of your younger ones. Do this, do that. No, my first daughter will be the last to wake up. In fact, our younger ones will be waking up. and then we begin to struggle with it. Sometimes I'll say, have you brushed your teeth? They say, yes, show me your teeth. And I'll see, cavity here. And I'll say, you didn't brush this, mommy, I brush it, mommy, and then you'll be complaining. I expect that in my days, I don't even want mommy to come and ask me, show me your teeth, because I know she can ask. So my brain must have told me, this woman is coming, so I want to ask me, go open your teeth. So, it's already, but you find out that children of these days, most of them don't even have it. So today, we were already at their school, and then we dropped her, gave her money. I said, take a cab back home. Go and brush your teeth, and then you take a cab back to school. So, of course, you're going to get to school late. Not that we are trying to be wicked, but we are hoping that very hard lesson, is going to teach her to be smart. Ordinarily, he was crying, and people will be like, leave this child now. Don't be a wicked parent. We're not trying to be wicked, but we are trying to teach her to be smart. That's in the line that I also look at these few, not all of them, but these few, selective folk tales that they're teaching, can hardly really be situated on morals. That's the angle I'm looking at it from. Thank you very much. Well done one more time.
Thank you.
This should be the end of our panel. So I know that all of us have got many questions. So now let's say that we officially close this panel. So all of the staying audiences are free to leave the room. But as speakers, I'm wondering if we can maybe form some sort of email, so that we can still be in touch, and maybe we can share the response that we have for the questions we got. As language teachers or researchers on pedagogy and term definitions and things. So if